Well, this is the final, well, not quite the final episode, but the final traditional episode of Season 8. And we come to you on a day that's been, well, I can only describe it as hugely normal with nothing eventful going on. Isn't that right, Rich?
Yeah, it is a good December morning. I mean, evening.
December.
December.
You know how
December.
we're all looking forward to Christmas being upon us. Do you remember that day? Randomly, I think it was roughly the 26th of September, a few months ago.
Yeah, I can't think. Nothing eventful happened that day. There was definitely no vehicle things that happened to anyone.
I was gonna say, let me tell you what there weren't: 2 separate vehicular collisions.
And a vehicular purchase. Oh.
Yeah. We'll tell your story first, and then I'll tell my side of it. That sounds like I drove into you.
Yeah.
I'll see you in court, motherfucker.
A unnamed
lawyer up.
A unnamed man with a difficult to spell surname hit me
It's
with
not
a
that
car.
hard. A-double-L-E-N.
No, I was just doing my thing, going to work, and then a man was like, "I don't think you should go to work. It should probably hit you." So he drove into a stationary bright orange motorcycle. It was very impressive.
I just don't get how you weren't seen, particularly if you were stationary on your motorbike.
Well, that's the thing. Always look twice.
Well, I mean,
and then afterwards, down.
The fortunate thing is that you, apart from, what was it, an achy knee and some achy ankles and some achy arms, you don't seem to be that injured.
And it's all like muscle ache, so I think it's just from lifting it up.
Your body's not used to actual physical effort, so.
Well, yeah, no. Someone said I should get a bike, and then I got a motorcycle license and a motorcycle. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think what they might have meant is exercise, but no.
But yeah, but you are okay.
Yeah, at least I
Good.
definitely will be by the time this comes out.
Well,
I mean, in a couple of days, obviously. Oh, this is stressful.
So yeah, that was the first of our 2 traffic incidents, and then it was so Lise, my wife, was literally signing on the dotted line to buy a new car when a chap came in and found the salesperson who Lise was talking to and said, "Hey, do you know who's?" And I'll call it the colour that it is on the document, citrus yellow. You've seen Lisa's car.
I'd give it yellow.
Well, I do as well because it annoys her. So, hey, does anyone know who's citrus yellow? Say Ibiza is out there. And Lisa goes, "Oh yeah, that's me. Do I need to move?" And he sort of went, "Maybe not. We sort of moved it for you." So she had her car driven into as she was signing to purchase a new one, which is, I mean, now I'm already like, that's quite funny. Not going to tell her that yet. But however, this is December. I'm safe by now. But yeah, obviously she wasn't in the car, but thankfully the lorry that hit her, the van that hit her, was actually I can't believe this. It was a body repair shop, and they've just offered her a complete free repair. So that's good.
Do you reckon they were just a bit light on work? So they should we just drive around and just make ourselves some work?
Let's dink people's cars and then not make any money from that.
Yeah, that's an interestingly coloured car. I would like to attempt to mix that paint.
But their insurance would be hugely expensive if that was their business model. They just keep driving into shit to paint it.
Yeah. Well, then maybe they don't do it through insurance. Maybe they just sort of go like, well, we're a body shop. We'll just fix it. Just don't do anything like super bad. Like don't break a window. Just, big scratches.
Do you know what? They nearly did. It's not far away from the back window. So it was very, very close. But yeah. But thankfully, everyone's okay. You got to work from home for the day. Lise got a new car. And
I mean, the new car was
everybody
unrelated.
that would have been a very quick turnaround. Oh no, you've had a prang. Here, have this.
Oh, I'm just here to look at a car. Someone's just saying, I'll take it.
Yes. So, the 26th of September, gore, looking back on it now, that was a weird day, wasn't it? All that time
Can you imagine
ago.
if there's something like wild happens after this, and it just looks like we just
COVID
ignored
2?
it entirely?
Yeah. Oh, well. Maybe we should, cover all eventualities. I can't believe that XYZ person is dead. I
just can't believe those nukes went off and all those people are dead.
I can't believe they're dead. I can't believe they're a nonce. And I can't believe... I still can't believe it's not butter.
Well, I mean, it's not butter. And I find it quite believable whenever I've tried it. It is definitely not butter.
I haven't actually tried it, in fairness. You're very particular with butter, aren't you? We should get to talk about TV shows in a minute, but that's something I always remember, is that you were fastidiously against any other forms of butter that wasn't Anchor.
Yeah. It's because it's the best.
In fairness, it's fucking good.
Yeah. I think it's how I was raised. Anything else can be off-brand, random shit, but butter has to be butter.
That's because you were raised in that big butter churn, weren't you?
Yeah. It's a new nickname for Scotland that I've never heard before. But
the butter churn.
It explains the amount of frying that goes on.
Speaking of a faraway land where everybody appears backward, and I was really trying to segue into one or both of the shows that we're going to be talking about.
It kind of works.
I
mean, talking of landers, kind of like your own, but not really.
Yeah, slightly different. Good grouping, I thought. This duo,
yeah,
quite closely related, like some sort of strange sort of weather phenomenon that leads you to distant and dangerous lands. I thought it was pretty good. So we're doing Shadow and Bone and His Dark Materials. Which do you want to start on?
Well, I watched them Shadow and Bone, then His Dark. I suppose no.
That's the order I watched
His Dark Materials entirely.
Oh, okay. I'll shut my mouth then.
But then I watched Shadow and Bone. But yeah, we'll do them in the order you watched them because that's easier. Because
Shadow and Bone first, then.
Shadow and Bone, fantasy, me like. His Dark Materials, fantasy, me like.
Yeah. So, I keep seeing these books when I go into Waterstones, Shadow and Bone, and Six of Crows is the one that I see more. But in the world of Shadow and Bone, it's called what's known as, and here we go, the Grisha universe. There is a divide between two sides of between two nations, which is a wall of shadow, and it's all about the sort of the excursion into the shadow, because there's certain people who can cross through it into the other side, and that they've done okay, like they've survived getting past. And I've got to say straight off the bat, I really, really enjoyed the opening prologue of this. They're like, I do quite like it.
That was the main note I have in my brain. That's just like, I also sort of wouldn't have minded if that had just been how the whole show was.
What, just completely animated?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it was. I think it was animation over live action.
Rotoscoping, I believe that's called.
Well, I knew there was a technical term for it, but I don't have a degree in film, so why would I know it?
There you go. I mean, the process is that they film people doing actions and then draw over it. That's what Disney did for their early cartoons.
Yeah, but I think in the background of those animated shots, you can still see people, kind of. Or I might be wrong, but yeah, no, the opening sequence was really cool.
Yeah,
and
I've very enjoyed that.
I also quite like that they did the thing that I like when a show has magic, where they sort of kind of go, this is sort of how the magic works. But we'll give you a little bit that's just like, some people do magic, other people do not do magic.
It's the sort of magic sort of appears in a lot of fantasy stuff as like, it's kind of a bit of a mystery. Like, it's like, yeah, there are certain people who can use it. We don't necessarily fully understand why, but it's just, there's the thing. And then quite often it comes back to, it's because of this reason. And it does, like, I think it does conform to sort of that, the chosen one kind of narrative, like, oh, a lowly sort of a lowly character is destined to become a great thing out of no, it's quite a well.
It's a trope, isn't it? But
a well-trod trope, yeah. So it's like your Luke Skywalker, it's your farm boy who becomes, Master Jedi, that sort of thing. That seems to be the way they're going with Alina, who appears to be the Sun Summoner. What stands out to me amongst it? So the story itself, I was like, I can sort of, okay, it's a cool idea for a narrative. Like, I like there's this division between this nation and that there's danger in that split physically.
Yeah, and it's quite a stark difference in the two lands, because one land is kind of barren and shit, and the other one is like
slightly better.
Not. It's very Victorian, I think.
That's
the aesthetic.
That's where I wanted to come on to, is I actually really, because a lot of the time, and I've, despite the fact that I quite like fantasy stuff, but I've said to you many times on this that I get really fed up with the whole, like, the Thrangi, the sword of Brongor, and all that sort of, like, really annoying sort of fake language sort of bullshit. But this, like you said, the aesthetic of this, I actually really enjoyed it. Like the fact that they have rifle. It reminded me of Dishonored in some ways. Like it's got that sort of that. What they
Dishonored
not quite steampunk, but
yeah, it's sort of that Victorian-y, steampunky sort of industrial Victorian. That sort of aesthetic, and it works really well. And also, it's quite nice when you have two places and you sort of go, well, we can make them look, because I think a lot of shows tend to have like a very flat evolution across like the whole of the world. So like if you look at like Lord of the Rings, it's all medieval and pretty elf tree houses, and it's the same in Game of Thrones and a lot of big fan. But this is just sort of gone like, yeah, there's the shit bit, so you'll know when you're there because it looks shit, and then there's this really evolved like industrial place, and possibly more places that we haven't seen in the first episode. So I quite like the idea of like different parts of the world evolving differently.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta be honest, I didn't think much of the characters in this. Like, I think it's because really
pretty much half the people you meet in episode 1 die in episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think we need to spend a bit more time with them before we like properly get invested with them, because there's quite a lot of characters it introduces you to. The one side of it that I was really interested in is the Jesper character. Like, the guy's like, oh, hang on a minute, so they're looking for this particular kind of person, so we're gonna go and like scam these guys into thinking that we've got all this money and that sort of stuff for the raid, for the mission that this guy needs a hire, and then the guy reveals that, oh, there was a Sun Summoner when the skiff went out into the shadow.
Yeah,
like that side of things, I was like, okay, that's fucking cool. Also, the visual effects of the Sun Summoner, when we didn't really spoke about this, but there's like a tool ship that goes through the shadow. And
it wasn't until they were showing the guy jumping off the boat and escaping that I put two and two together and went, that's a thing that goes on land, that isn't in water.
Yeah, I really, really liked that. Like, I like a tool ship anyway. Like, I feel like a ship is a really interesting place for storytelling, because you've got like a whole load of people, but they're trapped in this. It's like it's a big area that you can hide away in different rooms and that sort of thing, and have different secrets and bits and pieces going on for the story. But at the same time, they're all on it and going to the same place. Like, I just find stories about ships really, really intrigue me. So, like, the Terror that we did a few years ago, loved that. There's a film actually,
which is weird because that had a sequence that had a man go out diving in deep water. That
Yeah.
At the time, you were not a fan of.
No, I'd be quite interested to watch that again because, like, I feel like I've pretty much got over that whole deep water thing now.
Yeah, good.
But also, I would like to carry on with the Terror. Like, that was a really good show. I did really enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's premise as 1899, isn't it?
It's fairly similar, like, because in 1899 they come across the boat that's in distress, and there's a boat that's been missing. It's kind of like Event Horizon in that sense, which is a film that you definitely should watch. It's really, really good fun. But also there was a film that it's not getting it for some reason. I can't remember what it was. There was some rights issue that meant it couldn't have a theatrical release, but it's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And if you know your Victorian Gothic novels, you'll know that the Demeter is the ship that carried Dracula from Transylvania to Whitby. And the Claes Bang show that we watched with the 3 episodes, that second episode is all set entirely on the Demeter, and that was possibly my favourite of the 3. So yeah, I like stuff that's got ships in it. So I would have liked a bit more on the ship. Maybe we get to go back.
Well, I feel like it's the only way for them to traverse the shadow.
Or traverse the fog. I don't think it's called the Rift, is it? Because that's
the Fold. That's what they call it.
The Fold. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, and obviously, like, everyone's all looking for the Sun Summoner to be like, "Fuck you, Dark Shadow Border." Because I thought, because initially you see them show like the map of the land while she's drawing it. She's a cartographer, which I feel like is always a very underutilized
job
that you never get to see in like fantasy shows or anything. I think actually weirdly in Stormlight Archives, I think it's book 1 or book 2, one of the characters is basically like just starts drawing maps and then figures out like a massive plot point by just drawing a map, and I'm like, cartographers do not get the respect they deserve.
There was a cartographer in the Darren Shan novels as well, like in the Darren Shan vampire saga. There's quite a key character who, like, in the Vampire Mountain, there's tunnels everywhere, and he's going down into all the caves and the tunnels and stuff and making maps of it, and that actually becomes a massive plot point as well. The fact that he specifically knows how to get around the mountain, that becomes a massive thing, because he then starts letting in people who shouldn't necessarily be allowed into the mountain. So
yeah, I'm guessing they have cartographers because they're trying to map out
how far it goes. Yeah,
and I guess to know what's inside it so that you can make like safer travel routes that don't have like a big fucking rock in the middle of them.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you're the captain that sinks a ship on land?
Yeah, he's up there in the fold giving it the big one. I can smell sandstone. And suddenly it's all like, Stoneberg ahead.
And then for no reason Anakin's just leaning on the edge of the thing just like, I fucking hate sand.
Yeah, so largely I did really enjoy this, like way more than I thought I was gonna. Like, I thought this was gonna be another sort of, what was it, Fate
Shannara
the Winx
Chronicles.
saga or Shannara? Yeah, that was, oh fuck it.
The thing that I didn't like the most about Shannara Chronicles is they took the actor who played Gimli in Lord of the Rings and made him an elf, and I feel like his agent should have stopped that. I don't care if it's typecasting. That man is Gimli. He is not an elf. But no, I think this kind of got paired with his Dark Materials so that his Dark Materials could be on the list, because it's very hard to find something similar to that because it's so good.
Well, I mean, in that instance, it's if it's literally gotten added on a technicality, it's held its own really well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot. I also really enjoyed it. Then I'm a big like, give me a fantasy thing and I'll probably like it, unless it's Shannara Chronicles or Fate.
Do you know, I used to love fantasy stuff when I was a bit younger, but now I'm just a bit like, if I've got to concentrate on like just hearing it, because to me the tropes, the tropes of fantasy is the things that, like, typically if you watch fantasy or read fantasy stuff, you know, that's the stuff that you enjoy. But for me, I'm like, that's a massive barrier. If I've got to remember that, oh, you know, this person was in line to the throne, and then there was this big thing called the Haladabadar, and then suddenly X fantasy race came in and attacked everything and wiped everything out, and now there's some sort of bridge or wall or gap or some physical thing that divides a country or a world or something, and then people to one side of that think this and people to the other side, oh fucking get on with it.
So the thing that you hate is your bad memory. Well, welcome
in
to
so
the party,
many
friend.
ways.
Yeah, no,
But
that's
this
the
I
thing. I
did
get
like,
that.
yeah.
I like a world that's got like history. That's not just like we said it in the 80s. Its history is your history.
I'd love that if they just went, yeah, this is 80s world, and look, oh, the Berlin Wall's over there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And also, like, one of my favorite things is seeing new magic systems. Like this, it's fairly like it's very generic, but it's quite interesting. Like the little like, oh, only like these people. So you wouldn't expect anyone in this army to be able to. I keep wanting to say channel, but I think that's because I'm re-listening to Wheel of Time and watching the TV show currently. So it's very much where I'm getting my magic references from at the moment. But like they're throwing around like fire and stuff, and you sort of go, well, yes, every magic system has someone who can throw fire. But I also think it's got an interesting. The only thing is, I don't know how interesting the arc's going to be, because it is very like chosen one's going to do the thing. It's just who survives to see it. But yeah, I think I might actually watch some more of it,
That doesn't surprise me, to be honest. Like,
which I wasn't expecting.
I don't think I will, but I will concede that I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. Because like, it feels like at the minute when you go into like the sci-fi and fantasy section in Waterstones or whatever, and you look at the table where they've got them all out, it's like there's certain key words that pop up in titles, and a lot of the time it's song of whatever, and then there's
Ice
shadow
and fire.
is one,
Yeah.
flame is another, and you know, crown, throne, all these like you could. It's almost like ChatGPT has just spat out a bunch of fantasy titles of like the crown of shadow and breath fire or something. Like that's a book somewhere. Someone's written that book.
Yeah. Well, the ones that I think of are probably Ring, Tower, King, yeah, Hobbit. But yeah, I might actually maybe fuck off the show and just do
Read
the
the
books.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I really, really didn't hate it, and I kind of expected to. So that was a really nice surprise. His Dark Materials, however, let's get onto this one.
Yeah. So, question: have you read the Dark Materials books?
I have read, and by read I mean I have listened to. Years and years ago, when I was a kid, I read Northern Lights and couldn't remember it. So then, a few years ago, while I was still a gardener, I listened to Northern Lights, and I was like, "Okay, this is fucking good." And then, as I was watching this earlier today, I realised I don't remember a huge amount of it. Like I remember the main plot beats. Like I know it's like, okay, so Lyra's dicking around in Oxford. Her uncle is looking into this thing that they call dust. There's demons, which is a personification of your soul, and then when you're an adult they lock into one sort of animal form, but when you're a kid they can move around a bit. And those kids going missing. There's an evil person who takes Lyra under her wing and that sort of thing. And then there's
mum.
like that bit I remember that halfway through I was like, pretty sure That's her mum.
Yeah, Asriel's the dad.
Yeah. So that
Mrs.
bit I
Coulter's
remembered.
The mum.
And then I was like, there's a big fucking bear in this at some point, isn't there? So that bit I remembered as well, going to like Svalbard. And then the end, I remember the ending of the book, like where he disappears through to go into the city in the sky. And then that's the only one I've read, is the first one. So
well, if you want a bit of just a summary of it, you can watch the Golden Compass, because
I remember quite enjoying that film when I was a kid, because it came out at a time when I was going to the cinema like every couple of days.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember, I think, being excited that it was coming out, and then I think being quite disappointed with the film.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of people's reaction to it. Like, I thought it was fine, but because at that point I'm not sure I'd read the book. I can't actually remember when I wrote it. Wrote it? I can't remember when I read it.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because I think I read them in the wrong order. I read The Amber Spyglass first, and was like,
Wait,
I don't understand.
Is that the last
That's
one?
the third one. Yeah, I was like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on, but this book's good. And then I found out that there were these things called trilogies. So I think it was one of those ones that I picked up to like go on holiday when I was a kid, and was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's got a nice cover. And then I never owned all of the books. I borrowed them from a library when I was a kid. I own them all now because I sorted out my bookshelf and went, I've got The Amber Spyglass and The Book of Dust. I should probably get the rest of these books. And then I think it was actually just after I'd finished watching the last season of His Dark Materials.
So is it literally like each series is a straight adaptation of each book?
Yes.
Is it as simple as that? Okay, then in that case that solves the problem. So, yeah, this is fucking brilliant. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, like it is. I think possibly between this and Lord of the Rings, I think that may be the most interest in fantasy. But I think this is probably the best stepping stone for anyone who's like, oh, I don't really know. Because you go, well, it's basically Britain. But I think in universe they spell Britain with a Y. So it's different.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. And then, actually, a character that if you haven't read the second one, you start, I think throughout the first season, you start to meet Will, who's the main character in A Subtle Knife.
He's the character who's... So, I misremembered this. It would surprise you. I thought that Roger was Will. I sort of forgot that it wasn't Will until someone called him Roger. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But you start to meet him through this, but I don't think in the books it's basically like a Lyra book, then a Will book, and then the book when they're together.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe Lyra appears in Subtle Knife. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read them.
I do remember reading the ending and being like, oh, shit. Like, not all stories have a necessarily happy ending. And that's a really important lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely adored watching this. Like, because I always wish that, like, His Dark Materials was the books that I wish I'd carried on with when I was a kid. Because I talk to people, and I've got friends now who say, like, that it was their favourite books. They were their favourite books when they were a kid. And I'm like, I really wish I'd carried on with it, because it is amazing. Like,
yeah.
But obviously the only part of the story I know is the first book.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The Northern Lights on its own is not a bad book.
Oh, yeah,
and it's not an unsatisfying story to be like, to I guess assume that done, and no one lives happily ever after. But then also it's not too late. They're not.
No,
particularly
yeah,
good books.
I think this is what I'm wondering, because the trouble is that I've got this holiday coming up, but I've earmarked it for so many other books.
Okay, that's fine. The week after that holiday, we're going on another holiday.
We're on another holiday. Yeah, but we're going to be busy drinking Guinness, aren't we? So
Do you know what goes quite well with Guinness?
a book.
Children's books.
We're going to play a round of who can look the most noncy in an Irish bar. You're there with your Mr. Men books. Jack's there.
Yeah, it's an easy win, I think.
You're there reading Mr. Tickle and just dribbling.
Yeah, I mean, it's book one and it's the nonciest of the books. Maybe I'll get like a custom one made that's just Mr. Nonce.
Mr. Nonce, that would be good.
But
Mr.
yeah,
Nonce
like,
went to school because that's where he worked as a caretaker.
no,
During
PE
the
teacher.
fire alarm,
It's
no one had
always the
seen
PE
it.
teacher.
During the fire drill, nobody saw where Mr. Nonce had gone. And nobody knew where little Billy was either.
After
Oh,
school,
dear.
Mr. Nonce puts cameras in the changing room. Every year, Ofsted have to take them down.
He has quite the bill from Ring.com.
Suddenly,
None
it
of
just
the
it gets it's just
parents.
a really dark book.
None of the parents seem to like Mr. Nonce. Does he even have a CRB? Said Mrs. Smith.
But there's that one ginger kid crying in the corner because he's not the teacher's favourite.
Oh dear. Anyway, yeah, his dark material.
Yeah, so all those kids that go missing in his dark materials.
What I quite like is at the end of this, you get a little trailer for the rest of the
Yeah.
for the rest of the series, and I was like, okay, fair enough. So like, yeah, I do you know what it made me think is that this would be an amazing watch around like Christmas time, which is I think
proper,
when it
like,
came out.
comfy family watching.
Yeah, like yeah, I think this is like this is the YA stuff we had growing up. I think because this came out in the book came out in '95, didn't it? The first one.
Yeah, I think so.
Hasn't he gone on though? Philip Pullman's gone on to be quite the bell end. He said some like stuff that politically we would not agree with.
I don't often pay attention to what authors of books that I like say because it turns out they're always going to be disappointing cunts. Generally.
Yeah. I can't remember what it or if I got this wrong. No, I've got a funny feel. I won't absolutely be like, oh, well, he's an absolute dick. But I'd seem to remember that he said some pretty, like, I'm not sure if it was like Brexit-y stuff or something. I don't know.
In January
Maybe
2020, Philip Pullman called for literate people to boycott the newly minted Brexit 50p coin due to the omission of the Oxford comma in its slogan. Okay, that's not the best reason, but
What the fuck?
yeah.
Yeah, I think on Twitter he's been a bit of a dick. Jesus Christ, he's 76. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm 100% going to carry on watching this. 100%. I even described it to Lise. Like, I was like, have you ever read like The Northern Lights? And she's like, no. I was like, it's literally got everything in it that you like. So like anything that's got secret passages and a school in it, Lise is an absolute sucker for it. So I was
Yeah.
like,
You do
oh, in
remember
the first
that-
5 minutes she's climbing on the roof.
Yeah, and then
in
but right at the end
Oxford.
of the episode, she leaves Oxford University.
Shut up. Yeah, but goes to London, which is, you know, another favourite place of ours.
Weird, like it is weird because it is like a Britain where religion never really sort of lost its place.
Yeah.
But also, if you do finish the Dark Materials books, there are the Book of Dust books, which so far there's La Belle Sauvage and what's the other one called? The Secret Commonwealth.
Are they like direct sequels?
No, the Belle Sauvage is how Lyra first gets to Oxford.
Oh, right, okay.
So you know the scene you see right at the start of the pilot where it's him flying in on a gyrocopter or helicopter or whatever.
That confused the fuck out of me, by the way. Like, but they've got helicopters, but they don't have like other tech. But okay, go on.
Oh, just you fucking wait.
Oh, okay.
Like, shit gets weird. But that's the end of the Belle Sauvage.
Okay.
And then the Secret Commonwealth's the sequel from. I can't remember how long after it is. Maybe 10, 20 years. But like it is really good. And also, the fucking cast. The cast on this show.
It's an amazing cast.
It's almost, I would say, a cheat code. Because when James McAvoy turns up in a telly show, you're like, oh, you're a bit big time for this now.
I think that almost might lend himself to the character. Because he's like... I mean, he's pretty absent, but he's like...
Oh, he's only in 9 episodes across the 3 seasons.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we've done that thing again where, you know, when we watch something that we both really, really like, we just spend ages going, oh, it's well fucking good. Like when we don't like stuff, we break it down. Like, I didn't like this. When we like it, it's just like, oh, it's just fucking good. You just gotta go fucking watch it.
Yeah. I mean, the loose story is Lyra lives in Oxford, and then her mum comes and takes her away because her uncle, who is actually her dad,
Yep.
is going to the north and is the monkey evil. You'll have to watch it to find out.
Oh, Morpeth Clark's in it. And who do we know her from, Lisa? Lisa. I actually just called you Lisa then, for fuck's sake. Do you ever think we spend too much time together? Where do we know Morpeth Clark from, Rich?
I'm trying to remember.
Come on. You know this. You should fucking know this. You should fucking know this.
Oh, Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And that other thing that you like.
St. Maud. Which, by the way, last night, and by last night I mean the 25th of September, was an answer on University Challenge. So, there you go.
It's always nice to get your first University Challenge answer right.
Fuck you. Last week I got 15 points, so fuck off. There was a round on horror, and then there was another round on metal, which did really help. But
Yeah, that would really up your numbers.
But beyond that, I think I did very, very well. She's also... So I've just realised Morpeth Clark was in, you know, the Dracula with Claes Bang that I've referenced once in this previous conversation.
Oh,
she's also in that. Yeah, she plays Mina Harker.
Ooh, also, Omid Jalili's in this.
I love Omid Jalili.
I love it.
Brilliant.
His comedy's good, but what I love the most is how much he champions things that he's just randomly in for like a bit on Twitter. He was going on, like, he was tweeting about the 3rd season when he's not in it. He was just like, well, it's pretty good.
Have you ever heard him talking about his time on... Because he's in Gladiator. Have you ever heard him talking about that?
It's a whole bit on one of his shows.
Where he's like, Oliver Reed was holding his balls. That's fucking brilliant. Yeah, Northern Lights is fucking amazing. It wins hands down this episode. Shadow and Bone, fair play to Shadow and Bone for keeping my attention, because I did enjoy it. But his Dark Materials was just, it was something
I think
else.
it's genuinely better for Shadow and Bone that you watch that first.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd have been like, oh, this is absolutely nothing like it. So yeah, no, I really, really liked his Dark Materials. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And Shadow and Bone was fine as well. So
and something that I've only realised because I was scrolling through the cast list, I didn't actually realise that Helen McCroy was the voice of Asriel's demon.
Yeah, I've just seen that she was in that. She was brilliant, wasn't she? That was really sad when she died. She was fucking great.
Yeah.
I was waiting for some really crass joke, and I was like, you won't say something who's so good in Potter. You wouldn't say anything against that.
No, also all the other shit that she's been in that I've enjoyed. Like, I don't think I've seen anything that she's turned up in where she's been bad, or generally speaking, the shows haven't been bad either.
I don't know. There is the sequel to The Woman in Black
Haven't
that
seen
she's in, apparently. I haven't either, but I've not heard the best things. And I
mean,
know
for
if I
obvious
ever
reasons, like you didn't like the first one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind it.
Oh, I didn't know she was in Skyfall.
She was in Inside Number 9 as well.
Clearly don't. Wasn't she in one of the first episodes of Inside Number 9?
She was in the first season, yeah. Do you remember The Harrowing?
Vaguely.
It's the one where it's the scary person upstairs in the big old house.
Vaguely. It's been a while.
That pretty much wraps it up for season 8. So the next episode that will be in your ears is us discussing our top 5 episodes of the season. Then it's on to season 9. It's our 9th year of doing this. Can you believe that?
I mean, I can, because your company makes it feel like much more than 9 seasons.
Brilliant.
You knew it was coming.